Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti. The practice of asanas and pranayama is bracketing them as negative religion. And also the practice of meditation in the topic of negative religion. So how is it that he is not taking the practice of yogasanas and pranayama for a different reason as negative religion, and he is bracketing meditation practices is also negative religion for a different reason? Okay, so the reasons are different. So what is the reason? He says we have started taking the practice of asanas and pranayama, which is nothing but a physical exercises, is taken to be a spiritual course. Why it is not a part of spiritual course? It can never be a part of spiritual course. It is not part of spiritual disciplines. Why? Because the law of life is the subtle controls the gross, never the gross controlling the subtle. When you are practicing this asanas and pranayama, you are working on your body and breathing, which is gross. Spiritual disciplines is with reference to your mind and intellect, which is subtle. How can anything you do, perfection that you strive to achieve at the level of the gross, influence the subtle and make it also perfect? That is not going to happen. That will never happen. Now we need to understand how do you know this is gross? On what basis we say? Well, that is why the previous knowledge is very important. Earlier in this second section, Practical Vedanta, we have seen the first chapter we studied is human composition. In human composition, what did we study? There's a body, mind, intellect. There is a gross body, there is a subtle body. Gross body means the body which houses two sets of equipments called organs of perception and organs of action. So gross body is equal to organs of perception plus organs of action. Organs of perception means jnanendriyas. Organs of action is karmendriyas. So jnanendriyas and karmendriyas together forms the gross body. Right. And then it is these organs that connect the mind and intellect, the subtle body. Subtle body is what made up of four things actually. Subtle body is made up of four aspects to it. Manas, Buddhi, Chit, Ahankar. Now for convenience purpose, I am not going to be discussing with reference to Chit and Ahankar right now. For this analysis. For this, we don't need those two. These two are more than enough for us. Manas and Buddhi is enough for us. So for all purpose, whenever I say subtle body, you take it as mind and intellect only. Okay. Even though subtle body has Sukshma Sarira. Subtle body means Sukshma Sarira. Sukshma Sarira has It's got four things in it. There are four parts to it, four aspects to it. Mind, intellect, conditioned consciousness, and ego. Now in this, right now we will keep the last two, conditioned consciousness, which is chit, and ahankar, which is ego, aside. So keep it in the in the background. Just know that. Right. For analysis, we don't need that actually. So all that we require is only the mind and intellect. So now, of course, don't worry today, right? Even if you miss it, don't worry. We are going to study this in more detail in the subsequent chapter, the theory of perception, where we will do it more in more detail. But know this: only if you understand this, you can justify how is it. Otherwise, the fascination we have toward we have today for this yogasanas and pranayama is so much so that in fact many people don't consider me to be spiritual itself. What is teaching Vedanta? Oh, and they walk out. Whereas a person who is teaching yogasanas is they develop tremendously. And that too, when you say I'm teaching pranayama, means you are much more. Yes. I'm not saying you should start respecting me or anything for this purpose. There's no reason. But I'm just saying there is a difference. You see, they won't even register this. But this is treated by people as something spiritual, something religious, something mystical, something transformative. Remember, when we say religion, we are talking about transformation. We believe doing pranayama or practicing yogasanas is going to transform you. Similarly, practicing meditation is going to transform you, is what the belief is. Because religion is nothing but transformation. What is going to help you to transform is religion. If this is not, then it is not religion at all. So people take to these practices as this. Why? How do we say this is gross body? We say organs of perception, organs of action. Organs of perception: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. Organs of action: organ of hands, feet, speech, evacuation, and procreation. These are considered as organs of action. Now, the subtle body has the mind, intellect. This mind and intellect to contact, to reach to the world, by itself, it cannot reach to the world. Mind cannot reach to the world without the aid of the body. Okay, it needs the body. And the world to reach to the mind also needs the body. Only through the body, world reaches to the mind. Only through the body, the mind reaches to the world. Through the organs of perception, world reaches to the mind. Through organs of action, mind reaches to the world. Imagine like this: world is there, mind is here. Independently, these two are standing. There has to be a link, no? Somebody has to establish a link between the two. What is that? That link is the body. The body that connects, establishes a link. Now, this body we call as gross. Why do we call this body as gross? Because it is the same 5 elements that go to make up the world, makes up the body also. So it is the same thing. What is the world made up of? World made up of 5 elements. See, we are studying Vedanta. We are not studying chemistry. Okay. Don't come and tell me there are 119 elements are there, sir. No, that is in chemistry. Right. In Vedanta, we take the information that is needed for us. What is that we require is these are the 5 elements. World is made up of these 5 elements. What are the 5 elements? Space, air, fire, water, earth. These are the 5 elements. And what is your body made up of? It's the same 5 elements combines to form the body. So it's the same elements comes here. A little bit of that, little bit of that, little bit of that. Mix match. That is the body. Chivda. That's all. What is your gross body? Na chivda. Chivda of the 5 elements. What is the world made up of? Same thing. Same chivda only. 5 elements. There are 5 things there, 5 things here. That is gross. Therefore, this is also gross. One aspect. Another aspect we take into consideration to establish the body is gross. Why the body is gross? We say is because body by itself cannot initiate anything. It will not be able to function on its own. There is no possibility of actions for the body by itself. On its own, it cannot. It is directed and governed by something. You may say, sir, what about? Yeah, this is correct, Ishwaran, as far as my talking is concerned, my walking is concerned, this is concerned. But what about heartbeat? What about, these things? Say, body has 2 types of functions. One is called voluntary, another one is called involuntary. There are voluntary actions and involuntary actions. Remember, both are not initiated by the body. See, these involuntary actions are not in your jurisdiction at all. Involuntary functions are governed or managed, directed by the force of nature. Nature decides it. Otherwise, what will happen? One day, out of frustration, you feel like what? I wish my heartbeat just stops. I just die. I drop dead. That's it. You feel that, no? Psychology says average every man, every human being in the world gets the thought of committing suicide minimum 25 times. Everyone gets it. Let me be drop dead. The nature will not allow like that. Do you realize? See, you can never hold your breath and die. You know that? You can never go and bang your head against the wall and die. Smash your head against the wall and die. That is why the fellow goes to the top and jumps from there. Or you go and drown. Or you have to take something. Why? If you have to die, that means what? Breathing stops. All that you have to do is what? Hold? No. Simple. Strangle? No. Can you strangle yourself to death? Not possible. It will not happen. It never allows you. Why? As far as the nature is concerned, it will not give this opportunity for you to drop something which it has given you out of your impulse. That momentary impulse can drive you to throw away a great opportunity like this. So therefore, even those things were not actually in your control. Involuntary things also not in your control. Your control in the sense in the body's control. Body is not doing it. Right? Not to talk about voluntary actions. In Vedanta, we don't take into account involuntary actions. For our discussion purpose, we don't discuss that. We discuss only actions. Here means voluntary actions. Body by itself cannot do anything. It needs the direction of something else. Someone else is wielding it. Therefore, what is body? Body is just a vehicle, instrument. An instrument always has to be grosser than the one who is wielding that instrument. Isn't it? The pen is more stronger. The pen is strong. No. The one who is wielding that pen, the words, the author, the one who writes using the pen is what is referred. The pen by itself is not stronger, not the ink by itself is stronger. Ink is not. But through that, things can influence. How it gets so much of power? It's lent to the pen. Same way, it is the mind that lends. It is the intellect that lends. It is the mind and intellect that directs the body to act. Therefore, who is controlling and who is controlled? The controlled is gross, the controlling is subtle. Now we go and inquire, sir, how is it that on what basis we say that the mind is subtler? Mind is subtle, say. When you say mind is subtle, what we mean is you can understand, you can recognize the presence of mind, but you can never find a location of it. Where is the mind? What is mind? Mind is made up of emotions, no? Correct. Where is the emotions? Heart. Now, somehow I managed to get the heart transplantation of Majnu to me. Let's say Majnu's heart is transplanted and fixed to Ishwaran. Do you mean to say the love that Majnu had will come to Ishwaran? It runs in their blood, sir. People say, no? Music runs in their blood. Oh, I say, wow, super. Now I wanted to develop music. So what I have to do? Mathematics. I wanted to learn mathematics. What I have to do? Transplant blood. Go to Einstein and take his blood and transplant it. Next day morning, Ishwaran will become a great mathematician. Okay, if not great, at least an average mathematician. It doesn't transfer, no, like that. Why? Because it is not there. See, it's not there. Where is it then? But you do experience. When you have this love, or when you have that anger, when you have the jealousy, something you experience around about your heart. Similarly, when you have to think, when you have to do all those things, something you experience happening in the brain. Correct. But can you locate it? You cannot locate where it is. But you can understand, you can feel the presence of it. You can register the presence of it, but you cannot find the exact location of it. That's why we call it as subtle. You know it is there, but you cannot decipher where is it. Second aspect is, this is one dimension. Another dimension we have here is the mind and intellect. Mind cannot directly manifest. It cannot manifest. Any manifestation, expression of that, it needs the body. That is why, what is dream? Just thoughts, right? What is dream? Dream is nothing but undigested thoughts. Undigested thoughts of the waker comes as the dream experiences. But even to experience that undigested thoughts, you need a dreamer's body. The dreamer has to have a body for him to experience, for him to express, for him to do anything. You need that. So, what are the things you have? You have the world, and you have a body which houses the senses. So there is a skeleton, and then there is a senses. And that senses are there, the mind is there, and the senses were the one which is bridging the mind and body and world. Right? Now, so far it is only anatomical study, okay? No philosophy. Only now philosophy starts. Up to this point, it's all pure, I'm just recapping what we studied in chapter human composition. I'm not, no philosophy. From now only we start. Now, what we realize is, what Vedanta recognizes is, what we do see in life is, this mind and senses function together. They are so close, so united, so mixed up to an extent where you can never decipher up to this it is senses, from now it is mind. Where the senses stop and where the mind has taken over. See, we can't divide that. Up to what point it is the demands of the senses, from where the mind is playing, you will never know that. See, one. Another one we see is, why is it that mind and senses are hand in glove? Why these two fellows have become such a good friends, buddies, conspirators? Yeah, these two fellows. Why? Is because mind also wants instant pleasures. Senses also seek instant pleasures. See, these two will come together. Why they are mixing up so well? Why they have become such a good friends? Is because senses also want to experience instant pleasures. Mind also wants instant pleasure. That is why intellect stands apart and says, look here, this is different. Instant pleasures is not going to be giving you what you are expecting out of it. Don't fall for that. And all that is going to be told by the intellect, which is standing separately. He never mixes with it. Why? Because intellect never falls for instant pleasures. In fact, intellect becomes alert. It says, "Ayyo, something wrong." That is why this mind and senses will never cooperate with you when you strive to build the intellect. And intellect is always seen by this senses and mind as though he is the enemy. Unfriendly he is. This mind and intellect is there. Now, the world is there, body is there, inside the body, senses are there, and the same senses has one foot here, one foot in the mind. Okay. That is why when you see any disturbances that is happening at the level of the senses, creating a disturbance at the level of the mind as well. Any pleasure or pleasant experienced, joy experienced at the senses is taken to be the joy and the pleasure, peace experience at the mind level. Because they are together. The prana, I'm adding one more factor. Okay. You need all this understanding for you to realize the law. It's like saying E is equal to mc square. Now, to understand that E is equal to mc square, how much of physics and mathematics you should know? You see, it's so same way here. It says it is the subtle that controls the gross. Never the gross controls the subtle. It's a law. Therefore, anything you do, the control that you achieve at the level of body will never be transferred to the control of the mind. Full stop. He just moves. He just states that and moves. Now we have to stay and think. We have to decode. Why he is saying it? On what basis he is saying that? Is this claim justified? Is this claim logical or what? Yes, it is. How we can understand? Only when you understand the basic composition, basic constitution. World, body, senses. Senses, when I say, I'm referring only to the organs of perception. Okay, I'm not including organs of action. Well, that is also there, but that's not needed at this stage for us. Mind, intellect. Now, what is the prana then? See, prana also, where is that prana you cannot fix? You see, where is prana? Prana is just the connecting factor. Exactly like in the factory or in your house, you would see a fuse wire. All the electrical appliances are there. All those things have been linked properly, plugged in, switched on, but it will not work. Why it is not working? Immediately we used to go those days. Nowadays we got the tripper, the house. Earlier, first thing we used to do is we used to run and check the fuse wire. We'll take it out and see. It's so fascinating to see that, the fuse wire. Just a tiny one. Many times you can't even see that with the naked eye. It's so small, so fine it is. carrying the entire load of electricity. It's so interesting to see that. There's a prana, that's all. Prana is that which connects. So, senses are there here and the senses are there. Like, there is a difference between sensation and perception, isn't it? There are two different things we say. Sensation and perception. Sensation happens at the level of body. At the level of body, the sensation happens. At the level of mind, when that registration happens, it is called perception. See, the stimulus registered at the level of body is called a sensation. When that same stimulus sense were to carry it to the mind and registered at the mind only, it is called as perception. When you are seeing, many times we observe it. You are standing near a signal and I see you and I honk, I wave. You don't even respond, you don't even react. Next day when I meet you, I ask, hey, I met you there near MG Road, I am waving and honking and all that, you didn't even register and you are sitting in my class now. You say, when did I? Yeah, yesterday, afternoon, 2:30. You're standing near the place, no? You say, yeah, I was standing there. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't register. What you didn't register? If I were to trace back, if I were to have such a classic camera to focus on to your retina and take a picture at that moment, right? You would see the image inverted, Ishwaran, in your retina. I would have proved you. I would have said, look here, it's proved. What? Your retina had registered my image. Only thing is what? Inverted, correct. It's not direct, it is inverted. Now you are saying you didn't register? Liar you are. Why are you lying? What do you say? Sir, no, I didn't register. Why? Only when it reaches to the mind, that registration is complete. Otherwise, it is not. That's why we call it as perception. See, sensation and perception. Remember the distinction. All these things will be useful when we go to the chapter, right? Same injection. Now you see a lot of people taking injections, that vaccine. If one fellow sees another person taking injection and faint, right? Another fellow says, sir, let me do one pranayama before injection, prepare myself. And then what? Another person stands there and takes injection. What is he doing? Turn their face the other way around. Is it over? Say. Another person says, give it. He says, done now. Okay, thank you. And here you go. Different responses, different ways people take to that perception. Right? See, sensation is the same, no, for everyone. Every body will register that piercing of that injection, same needle, same nurse, same person is piercing it. At that stage, it is the same thing. But the way it is getting perceived varies from person to person. That is why the reactions are all varied. The way they register it is different. Why? Here comes the another dimension of the mind playing. What is the next aspect of the mind? Mind has a tendency to exaggeratedly register any sensations. You see, it will exaggerate. If it is a pleasant, it will exaggerate. If it is a pain, it will exaggerate. Mind will exaggerate the pleasant sensation or painful sensations exaggeratedly. To what extent your intellect is standing and telling you to say, not allowing the mind to exaggerate and keep it under control. Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matpara vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. This beautiful word. See, the problem is, the word, in English, we use the word control. See, the control has an element of effort, there's an element of frustration, the element of resistance. All that is implied in that word control. See, that's why it is better to use, a few places the Sanskrit words. Sanyamya is this. You can't translate it. There are, many words you cannot actually translate. Very close one we come to is, control, having controlled the senses. But control is what? Sanyam is not that. Samyam is, it carries that prefix sam. Sam in Sanskrit, it means good. It means good. It's not out of frustration. It has the senses, the connection that is existing right now for an ordinary man is not good. Samyamya. For whom? From asamyamya, you should convert it to samyamya. What is that? The connection that is existing right now between senses and mind is not holy. It is unholy friendship. Who is a sthiraprajna? Sthiraprajna is one who has built his intellect to convert that unholy connection to a holy connection, samyamya. That's called control. Now we think, control means, like this. The intellect makes it good. How it makes it good? It ensures the mind doesn't play its tricks and exaggerates it. Now the mind has an inherent weakness. And that mind is hand in glove with the senses. They are mixed so much so, it is so difficult for us to distinguish and decipher, segregate the two. And say, this is mind, this is intellect, this is senses. Demand of the senses and demands of the mind. What is once the mind exaggerates it gets carried away. So the mind has a weakness to get carried away by the demands of the senses. Why? Because it starts seeing the sensations presented by the senses to be experiences that with that amplification. Therefore, it starts running. Therefore, the senses and mind fall for instant pleasure. They work together. right? When they are working together, it is intellect who is supposed to keep it aside and say, look here, don't fall for this. Now, in this, a person is practicing asanas and pranayama, working at the level of what? This practice of asanas and pranayama operates at the level of asanas operating at the level of the skeleton, the body, not even senses, remember. If at all it touches some aspect of the senses, it touches which aspect of the senses? The grosser aspect or the subtler aspect? Which time? Where it touches? It touches which side? So, for any connection, two things to be connected means those two things should have some similarity, no? Only a similar can be connected, mixed. A dissimilar cannot be mixed. Example they give in the schools, oil and water. You cannot mix oil and water. You can pour those together and keep it in a jar. But will they get mixed up? They will never get mixed up. Those two things can get mixed up. Means there has to be something similar to them. What is similar to them? Similarity is instant pleasure. Also, mind has another weakness inherently for it. One more weakness it has is it has a tendency to exaggerate. Instant pleasure, exaggerated, what will happen? Therefore, to a layman's eyes, it looks like what? Senses controlling the mind. That is why we start working on the body. Why? Perfect body, healthy mind. What is the logic they give? For healthy body, healthy mind, they give examples of all the people in the world, all the case studies, the empirical data would be given. All that empirical data will show what? Exactly opposite of what he says. Gross cannot control the subtle. Yes, but our empirical data shows what? Opposite of that. We do see gross controlling the subtle. Why it is appearing like that, nobody inquires. In the absence of a stronger equipment called intellect, it will. Why it appears like that? It appears like that because it is. However, the disturbance happening at the level of body and senses can cause a disturbance at the level of mind. Whereas the relaxation that is achieved at the level of body is not going to produce any relaxation and concentration and focus for the mind. Positive will never happen. They can cause a disturbance. Like, fellow said, sir, he is just a government office, peon. Why should we give him bribe? Don't give. Because anyway, who's going to sign the papers is the officer. Why do you want to give this fellow? He says, yo, sir, you don't know. This fellow doesn't have the authority to sign the papers, but he can afford to tear off 2 pages in your file and submit it. He can put spanners in work. That is possible. But can he sanction that? See, positive strength he doesn't have, but he has the power to do what? He can do that. I hope I'm not giving ideas. No. Now I'm saying all these people do it. But it's possible, no. For him not to do that, we bribe. Similarly, this asanas and pranayama was developed not to transform the mind, not to make the mind peaceful, not to make that, not to cause further disturbance. That's about it. After that, whatever is going to happen will happen. But at least all the papers goes and reaches the table of the executive engineer. See, because if two papers are missing, 2 pages are missing means the executive engineer can never sanction. It is not possible. Same thing here. The senses appear to drag the mind away, appear to drag it, disturb it, only when this, under the circumstances of the absence of intellect. The absence of intellect alone, it does that. So, based on our empirical data, we are not able to, and people will definitely give you more and more empirical data possibilities based on what I have arranged it. The paper has reached to the executive engineer. Understood is what the executive engineer will sanction it, because everything is perfect. Believe in that. What if the executive engineer himself, even if that peon were to be honest enough to take it and give, will never make the executive engineer honest? Isn't it? That will not happen. No, that's no guarantee. Isn't it? That's why we say corruption always starts from the top. You see, the corruption doesn't start from the bottom. Like they say, the crack on the wall always starts from the top. The crack never starts from the bottom. It starts from there. Why? That's a law. Physics. Similarly, the law of corruption is what? It starts on the top. That's why everyone who is corrupt always points out to someone who is superior to them. The peon will say this person, that manager will say that, the zonal head will say general manager will say vice president will say this person will say that. I'm doing all these things only because of the pressure, because of that. Sir, I can forgo my share, but I have to pay them also, no? Every month you are supposed to pay them, sir. I can't do anything. They will question me. I cannot simply sign. This is the problem. Always we point to someone higher and justify our corrupt ways. Why? Because it starts from there. So here also, the mind which is instant, the weakness the mind has is for the instant pleasure. When the mind has a weakness for that instant pleasure, it will immediately go for Kumi. This is the significance. In Mahabharata, the dice game, when they are playing, Shakuni went on saying, every time he was rolling the dice, he said, look here, I bid this, you bid this. You have lost all that, no? Right? This you bid. What I keep is, I bid all that you have lost, one side, and all that you would be bidding is only what? Another 10,000 cows. So if you lose only 10,000. If you win, you get back all that you have lost. You see that? This is how the temptation is. This is the foundation. This is how the world is tempting. This is how the mind falls for it. So what is that you have to do? This combination is deadly. The combination of what? The senses and the mind. The mind which has to get something instant will always go for run behind volume, numbers. Instant pleasure mind is not going to be. It has another aspect. It has exaggeration, and it doesn't stop with that exaggeration one. It has another dimension also. Another dimension of the mind is it has a weakness for numbers. It will go for numbers. More the numbers, what is the impression you have always? Huh? YouTube viewership. You open a video and you see the number of views. 25 million. I'm just saying, okay. Imagine for our class, you are checking the video and you see Vedanta class on negative religion has 25 million views. What you will think when you are when you wanted to watch, with what idea you will watch that video? Vis-a-vis another video which has 7 views. There is one video, same topic, okay? Same topic. One topic has, I am not saying, you have to view the 7, you should ignore that, 25 million or, 10,000 views, 15,000 views and all that, please. I'm not saying that. Right? Don't go reverse. Right? Only saying, the moment you see more numbers, it gives you a sense of confidence, isn't it? Yeah, it must be worthy. Sir. Otherwise, why will 10,000 people view it? See, this is argument, no, for us. The fact that there are about 25,000 views we have had is a proof that it must be a good video, right? Numbers. See, numbers looks like, why that numbers? Remember, it comes from the weakness of instant. If numbers are more, the possibility for me to get that instant solution, instantly what I want, is possible from that. That's why we go to God also, to that temple where there is more people, more crowd. You don't go to a temple where nobody goes. I'm not saying you should go in search of temples, which I used to do. No, I used to go in search of temples where nobody would go. Somehow I had that interest. I'm not saying it is right or wrong or good or bad or anything, but it's a very different one, to search and see the devotion people have when they come into that temple. Vis-a-vis the temples where there are thousands of people flock. In fact, only then you believe that God is strong, isn't it? Powerful God. If a temple is, nobody is going to the temple, means you believe what? God himself is not having any strength. This God is a weak God. That God is a powerful God. In Mylapore, we had temples. Shiva temple. One Shiva temple. Even those who don't know Mylapore will go to the temple. The same place, there's another Shiva temple. Those who have been living in Mylapore for years had never been to the temple. They say, oh, apdiya. I tell those people, and the Koil Berginda, I say, oh, I have never been to. But why that numbers gives? See, it gives that possibility to satiate the weakness the mind has, can get instinct. That is why he says the people go to it. Why? Because of the numbers, he says. People take to it. And you started believing in this volume. Why? Numbers. Yes. Therefore, the mind has a tendency to exaggerate. That's why Vedanta says, end perception with perception. Do not try to work on it. Do not try to exaggerate. Do not try to build it further than what it is. As long as you are alive, you will go through sensations. Sensory perception, sensations will be happening at the level of body. That you cannot stop. But you can segregate. A stronger intellect can stay at the level of sensation and be with it. It will never allow that to move to the next level. So in this entire equation, when you are working with reference to your body, when you are working with reference to your body, this asanas and all this, and pranayama and all those things. And what is this prana? Prana can be even more difficult to even understand actually. Like air, fire, water, earth. These four elements are available for perception. The element space is not available for perception. It is available only for intellect to understand. It is only intellect that understands space. You can't perceive space. You see, vacant only. The moment you say space, you look at what? Vacancy. As though once the wall is put up, there is no space. No. Even the wall is also there is space. The space is not gone. Space is still there. But you can't. You can only be felt. You can only understand. Similarly, prana is also not available for perception. You can only understand it. Can be contacted only by the intellect. Understanding is not available for perception. That's why in Taittiriya Upanishad, he says, you can't even understand prana. How are you going to understand Brahman, he asks, which is even subtler than prana. This itself you can't understand. How are you going to understand? Why? What is the proof of it? The proof is you cannot increase the prana or decrease the prana. Through the practice of pranayama, you are not increasing the prana. That is why, as that yoga teacher gets older and older, what happens to him also? The things that he was able to digest earlier, he cannot digest now. And you say, through pranayama, I'm going to control. Control of breath. Pranayama means control of breath. I'm going to control it. Now, controlling means what? You should be able to increase at will and decrease at will. That is called control. Population control means what? Physical deficit control means what? You can decrease or increase. That possibility should be there. The possibility is not there. It is you can never work on it. You cannot work on your at best what you can do is you can hold your breath, but not prana. Remember. That's why here in our tradition, when a man dies, we don't say, we say prana left. Why? Why prana leaves? He is staying not because of your will. He is not seeking your permission to leave. He stays out of his own. He leaves out of his own. Absolutely no connection to your will. How can you say I am controlling him? It's like the peon comes to office whenever he feels like, leaves the office whenever he feels like, but the manager says, the peon is in my control. It's just a make-believe. The peon will be laughing inside. Yeah, okay, keep it. If you want to believe like that, keep believing like that, you will say. That's all. Like people say that, every man claims to be the boss. And every woman knows. Right? That's all. You can keep claiming, but she knows who is the boss. Like that, it says pranas. The pranas is like the connectors. That's it. It just connects. It's not going to be. That's why the breath control has got nothing to do with spirituality. Control of breath is nothing, no connection to spiritual. Why? Because it is not even coming anywhere near mind and intellect. It is not touching the mind and intellect. So then talk about subtle and then vasanas and then realization, enlightenment and all that. It is so far it is. That's what he criticizes. He's saying, people eat the wrapper and throw the chocolate. You can tamper with breath, but you cannot tamper with prana because it is a concept that connect the senses to the mind. That is thread that is linking, that is tying the two together. He goes and sits there. But it has to be tied, no. The thread that is used to tie the senses and the mind is a prana. There's one yoga expert we had in Mysore. There's no more. I had a chance to meet him. He didn't know who I am and all that. I just told him I'm interested to learn. That's it. I wanted to study all this because I got introduced. Because we are going to Mysore and all that because my brother was living in Mysore for some time. So, when I went there once, he told me I'm going to meet. I said, let me also go to see him. So he went there, asked him, sir, in the prana, because what is that? That prana is breath. Breathe in and breathe out. That's all. What more you want? What else you want to know? Said that pranayama and all that. He instantly shot back saying, have you ever observed anyone practicing it for a long period of time? I didn't answer. I have, but I didn't answer. I just kept quiet. Yeah. You see what happens to those people? That practice, the serious practitioners, the serious practices result in a chemical imbalance in the brain. And that creates a hallucination. And you cannot distinguish between that hallucinated thing and the real. You come out and talking about it so eloquently that hallucinated things. That is why people started ascribing these things to be mystical, he says. He says this pranayama practice and all that has become, treated mystical. Mystical in the sense what? When you start practicing it, you start experiencing something. You see? And what you don't understand is, it is nothing but the imbalance. Only difference is what? When you take certain chemicals, a few years back, we had that as a great, movement in the world. People taking to certain chemicals for spiritual experiences. And they claimed it, and they did have it. That's the beauty of it. Without that inducement of that, you do it. What is going to happen? He says that's what is going to happen. That is what will happen when you practice these things. But you do experience it. Therefore, for you, your experience is the final authority. No one has the courage to challenge or question their experience. We cannot challenge your experience. Your thing. You will say that I have experience. What are you talking? The language. That's what I keep saying. The language of the ignorant is that of a assertive. The language of a man of wisdom is always suggestive. Ignorance asserts. Wisdom suggests. Very suggestive. And today, we fall for those assertive statements. And those assertions were taken as conviction. You see, it's not. There are so many things playing around it. And most of us don't pay attention to those dimensions at all. We skip all that and say, aha, this is all it is, sir. So pranayama means what? Pranayama is just breathe in, breathe out, lungs. And then you do get that sensation, something you do experience physically. What is it? It is because of the oxygen content. When the oxygen content is more, your senses, your body becomes alive. Most of us have lost that senses of the body to be alive. It's drowsy. It is dead, as it were. So when you do pranayama, it comes back to life as it were. That's about it. That is nothing mystical here. We have started ascribing so many mystical things to pranayama. Vedanta doesn't say it has no value. Remember, it has a value. Value is what? Like I said in the last class, value is a canvas. How much value you give for a canvas? And today we have seen what is body. Body is a vehicle through which you need to contact. Like how you have to maintain your car is the same way you are supposed to maintain your body also. That's about it. But because you have maintained your car so well, doesn't mean your business will grow successful. You see, oh, my car is so clean, so neat. All the things are so perfect. Doesn't mean you can be successful. It is something like that. Training to work on the body. Breathing is body, remember. There is nothing spiritual there. Asanas, body, nothing spiritual. Why body is gross? Gross in the sense, when you are working on the asanas, you are working only at the level of this. And when you are working on pranas, you are working pranayama, you are working only at the level of the breath. Even if you say that I'm going to touch that prana, prana is only a connecting factor. That's about it. It remains as it is. It's intact. The equipment is intact. Like the wires they use, in the olden days, in the VCR, that tape video we used to watch. In those days, they would give the wires to connect. What was interestingly, they will keep the colors, black, blue, red. Same way, the wires also will have black, blue, red. All that you have to do is what? Plug into black to black, red to red, blue to blue. That's all. It's the color that gets it, nothing more than that. Same way, prana is like that. It is not going to be touching anything to do with spiritual. Right? How meditation is not spiritual. Meditation is negative religion. We have seen what is, why asanas and pranayama not is bracketed under negative religion. Then he has explained what is, how is it that meditation is also negative religion. Their reasoning will change. There the whole angle is different. Right? We'll see that in the next class.